I just ate a strawberry frosted donut with sprinkles from Dunkin', and I have my water with me, and I'm ready to do something I like to call my April wrap up. Let's just get into it. So in the month of April, I read 14 books. I am impressed with myself. The catch to that is 13 of those books were audiobooks. Now, let me explain myself. When I'm in school, I have very little time to read physical books, so I turn to reading audiobooks. But I miss reading physical books, and I can't wait to get back to that in the summer. But let's get into what I read in April. Since I only read audiobooks really in April, all of the books are going to pop up right here in a picture on the screen, and I will give a brief synopsis of each book and my thoughts. The first book I read in April was Vesper Teen by Margaret Rogerson. I've read 2 other books by her, I believe. I gave Vesper Teen 3 stars. It is about a girl named Artemisia, and she's pretty much a nun that deals with dead bodies. Her convent is attacked by these possessed soldiers. To save her convent, she goes and talks to one of the sisters, and the sisters give her a relic that ends up basically possessing her body. And it's called a revenant, and the revenant keeps trying to possess her sort of, but she can't. She's trying to save her little town from these spirits that have come loose. She tries to save them using the revenant, but she has to keep herself from getting possessed and have a relationship with this evil revenant that's inside her body. I rated it 3 stars because it was incredibly confusing. I feel like the world building really didn't make sense. I didn't like the little romance that bloomed. I don't even know if you could really call it a romance. The main girl, Artemisia, I just was not vibing with her. She was the kind of person that was no, don't look at me, I'm hideous. Shut up. You're annoying me. I liked how she interacted with the revenant in her head. Oh, so basically there was this whole religion that was kind of like Christianity, but or Catholicism, but then also not, because there was a bunch of different god figures or whatever, and they just didn't really explain it well, I don't feel like. So I was going through it, I was who's that? But it was one of the gods I just didn't know, or revenants or whatever, I just didn't know the whole backstory to it, so that kind of made it confusing. The second book I read in April was part of a series, part of the Shatter Me series, the 4th book, and it was Restore Me by Tahara Mafi. So it's kind of hard to explain because it's the give a synopsis of, because it's the 4th one in the book, so I don't want to spoil the series for you, but I'm going to try and explain the premise of the whole series. So this is not specific to the 4th book. Basically, there's this girl named Juliet Ferrars, and in this world, it's very futuristic. It's in the future, all of our natural resources are depleted. The government, this government called the Reestablishment, promised all these people in the world about a reality, and they were we are going to save you because our world is dying. And so the Reestablishment was formed. Lo and behold, they're corrupt. Then another aspect of the story, there are these people. They don't really have a specific name, I would say. They have powers. Our girl Juliet, her power is that no one can touch her without dying. So if she touches someone or they touch her, there's this intense pain and then they die. She gets put in an insane asylum when she is in high school because she accidentally killed a little boy, and then she meets this guy named Adam, and Adam is part of the Reestablishment, a soldier, and they have to run tests on her, etc., etc. Then there's this whole other plot. That's the basis. Restore Me, the 4th book, I gave 4 stars. There's a lot of drama with the main couple, and I was just not feeling it. I was come on, just kiss and make up already. Spoiler alert for not for the books, but for the rest of this video, I read the end of the series, to the end of the series. So I don't, they kind of all mushed together, the events mushed together. So I can't remember why this one specifically was 4 stars, but it was 4 stars. The 3rd book I read in the month of April was The Honey Don't List by Christina Lauren. I gave this book 2 stars. and here's why. I don't really remember much about this book. I just know it annoyed me to no end. I read like 2 or 3 of Christina Lauren's books, and I'm starting to realize that the writing is not my vibe. I don't remember the main characters' names, but there's this home remodeling couple. They have these 2 assistants, and these 2 assistants to like the wife and the husband of the home remodeling couple, they hate each other. Secretly later though, they fall in love. You feel me? The home remodeling couple, they hate each other. Like for real, like this relationship is borderline abusive, like not good. And the relationship between assistant and boss is like abusive too. Oh, the main girl, she's the assistant to the wife, and basically the wife doesn't do crap. Like she is actually not talented at all. She doesn't do any of the stuff she pretends to do on the show. But our main girl is actually designing all of this stuff secretly for the wife and gets no credit for it. Basically, the home remodeling couple has to go on tour for a book about successful relationships. So they have this really huge fight before tour because the husband was found cheating. And so our 2 main characters, the guy and our main girl, have to keep the other couple together over this tour. That's the synopsis of this book. It was extremely confusing to say and extremely confusing to read. 2 stars from me. Why? Because even when the couple got together, they were really freaking boring. I was in the mood for some smut. There was none. There you go. Next, I read another romance book called One Day in December by Josie Silver. I gave this book 3 stars. I really liked the idea of the book. The relationship in actuality, I didn't like. They were a really boring couple. One Day in December is about this girl named Lori, and Lori is trying to find love, sort of. And she's on this bus, and she sees this guy sitting on a bench outside of the bus window. And she's like, holy crap, that guy's hot. And so she's looking at him, they're making eye contact, whatever. She's like, please get on this bus, dude. Like, please, I think I'm in love with you. And then the bus starts moving and he doesn't get on. And then for the next few years, she obsesses over this guy and calls him bus boy. That is something I found weird. Like, I do that too, you know, like fall in love with strangers randomly, but I never obsess over them for more than like 2-3 days. She was on this dude for like a year. Later, like it's set over many years, so it's like kind of you get little snippets from each year. So the timeline's very broken up. Lori's best friend is like so excited. She's dating this guy. She's like, you have to meet him, Lori. I love him. You guys have to be best friends. Lori's best friend brings this guy home. So it is best boy, and Lori's like, well, I can either tell my best friend this or not, but I have to pick one either way. She ends up not telling her best friend, and so there's this whole drama about her being in love with her best friend's boyfriend. And over the years it gets resolved. Oh, the boyfriend's name is Jack. I love the name Jack. I was disappointed by the character Jack. He was really freaking annoying. He was not a good boyfriend to the best friend, and like I feel like that's inexcusable. It was just a very toxic situation. Normally I love toxic romances, like don't get me wrong, some Penelope Douglas, you know, gets my heart beaten. But this one, I was just like, there's no like chemistry, so this toxicity is not necessary. Did I say I gave it three stars? I gave it 3 stars. Book 5 was Last Chance Books by Kelsey Rodkey. My notes are extremely messy for like this video, so I gave this 2 stars. Very disappointed. Love the premise. So there we have Madeline Moore and Jasper. I love the name Jasper. So Madeline Moore has a family-owned bookstore named Books and More, and then this bookstore across the street, forget its name, was owned by Jasper's father. They're rival bookstores. Madeline doesn't know that Jasper works there. So Jasper's coming over and flirting with Madeline in Books and More, and then she finds out that Jasper works at the rival bookstore, and she's like, dude, what the F? So then they have this whole rivalry where they keep playing pranks on each other. Like I was in it. I was like ready. And then this huge event happened, and I was like, so he's just gonna forgive her for that? Like, I don't know. That just kind of seems fishy. And the main character was like so obsessed with saving her family's bookstore. None of her other family cared about this bookstore, so she was the only one. And I was like, okay. This whole month, there's a lot of stories of main characters who just annoyed the crap out of me. And this was another instance, so I just could not get on board. I loved the idea, didn't love the execution. Next, the only physical book I read this month. Number 6, Neon Gods by Katie Roberts. Okay, I gave this 4 stars. I thought it was great. It's a Persephone and Hades retelling, or Hades and Persephone. I hate that I said it the other way around. I don't know. Even though feminism, the woman should be first. That was a joke. Persephone's and Hades retelling. It was like a Wattpad book through and through. Like this whole book, I could run it on Wattpad. Wouldn't have fazed me. I loved it. This is exactly what I needed to read on spring break to get my mood up. Basically, it's set in New York City. In New York City, in this version of the story, is actually Olympus. So like they have all the rich people where all the gods live, like Zeus is in control, and then the underworld, the part of New York City that's not so great and that Hades controls. No one knows Hades exists, but our main girl Persephone loves him, like is obsessed with looking at his little statue. Then she finds out she's got an arranged marriage to Zeus, orchestrated by her mother. She is pissed. Girl is pissed. She runs away. She's like, I cannot marry this creep. She is chased by Zeus's men. She comes to the river Styx and she's like, well, shiz, I'm trapped. They rounded me up and now I'm trapped. And so crossing River Styx is like really painful and hard to do, and it's like the line between Zeus's territory and Hades' territory. So she's like, well, my only option is to die or to cross the river Styx. Well, not to die, it would be to marry Zeus, but like that's her equivalent to death. And so she chooses to cross the river Styx like a bad A. So she crosses the river, she sees this stranger. She's like, help me, dude, I'm literally about to die right now. And so this dude helps her and carries her back to his house and cares for her. It's Hades. But anyways, so yeah, that's kind of the premise of the book. I loved it. I liked Persephone. It was one of those romances where it was like they immediately were so attached to each other and like they would die for each other, blah, blah, blah. Objectively, probably not the best book, but I had a great time reading it. Number 7, One Italian Summer by Rebecca Surley. Okay, I gave this book 3 stars. Now that I'm looking back on it, it was probably a 2. It was about this woman named Katie. I think she was in her 30s. Her mother dies. Before her mother's death, they had planned a trip to Italy together. Then her mother dies, and Katie's like, they're non-refundable tickets. What do I do with them? Or something like that. So she decides to go on this trip to Italy. But basically, she meets this dude, and she meets this lady that she's friends with. There's a big plot twist in there, and she ends up going back to her husband. I failed to mention that she had a husband, and after her mom died, she was like, I literally don't even know what my life is anymore. Like, do I even love this man? And then like she finds love in Italy. The plot twist happens. She figures some stuff out within herself, and she goes back to the old husband that she doesn't love. And so that's why I didn't really like the book, because like the plot, not one of my faves. But then like the going back to this old dude that she doesn't love, I was like, that's so unfair to the guy. Like, what? Maybe it was like older people in the book, so maybe since I'm not that old and like maybe I don't understand it because I'm not as mature emotionally as some people, and I didn't see the chemistry between her and her husband, so I was like, why are you going back to this man? Anyways, did not love the relationship. 3 to 2 stars, somewhere in that range. Number 8, The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory. This marks my binge of Jasmine Guillory books. I read the whole Wedding Date series in the month of April. I was devouring them. Were they great? Actually, no, they definitely weren't great, but they were fun. I rated The Wedding Date 4 stars. Here's the synopsis. We've got Alexa. No, wait, I want her on this hand. We got Alexa. We got Drew. Alexa is going to celebrate her sister getting in this law company, I don't know. Drew, don't know why he's here, I forget. They're in the same hotel. They get in the same elevator. The elevator gets stuck. Oh crap. They like have this little fun conversation in the elevator, and Drew tells Alexa about his ex-girlfriend's wedding that he's the best man at, and she's like, what the heck? And he's like, yeah, and the worst part is, I don't have a date. And she's like, no. We fast forward. The elevator's unstuck. They go up to the floor. They're like, bye. They walk up directions. Drew's like, wait, you should be my date to the wedding. And she's like, yes, I'll be your date to the wedding. She's kind of like up in the air about it, but she says yes. So they go to this wedding together. They have a great time. They hook up. They're like, really wish we could date each other, but we can't. We live in separate cities. And they're like, okay, so we'll just have a hookup arrangement. And like, will just come over to each other's houses on the weekends. It's a theme in her book. Yada, yada, yada. Stuff happens. And then eventually they end up together. Gave it 4 stars. I really like the relationship between Alexa and Drew. They were one of my favorite couples that I read about. And I like how they examined their past together and like the effed up things they kind of did and that brought them together. Yes, 4 stars. It was great. Number 9, another Tahara Mafi book. Book number 5 in the Shadow Me series. Defy Me by Tahara Mafi. I gave it 5 stars. If you want to rehear the synopsis, go back because I'm not explaining it again. This is the second to last book in the series. The series started to gain some snowball. You feel me? It gets better as you keep reading. Number 10, The Proposal by Jasmine Guillory, the second book in the Wedding Date series. Gave this 4 stars. This book is set between Nicole and Carlos. Carlos is Drew's best friend. You following Drew and Alexa from the first one? Drew's best friend, Carlos, meets this girl named Nicole, and everyone calls her Nick, so I'm gonna call her Nick. So, Carlos and Nicole, they are at a Dodgers game. Nicole's with her boyfriend, who's he's like an actor. He's got long blonde hair, blue eyes, basically frat bro. Nick's just with him for funsies, and then Carlos is sitting a few rows down. Out of nowhere, Nick's boyfriend, forget his name, proposes to Nick, and she's like, what the heck, I don't even like you. I'm just here with you for your good looks and the sex. And they're on the Jumbotron. So this is a very public proposal. On the Jumbotron, he spelled Nicole's name wrong. And she's like, if you're gonna do this, at least put some effort into it. So he's proposing, and Nicole's trying to say no nicely, and her boyfriend is not taking it well. Carlos sees this all happening. Nick's boyfriend gets all mad, and they storm off with all his friends at this Dodger game. Keep in mind, Nicole hates baseball, so she's like, why would you propose here? Then these paparazzi come up to Nick, and she's getting bombarded, and Carlos is like, yo, sis, we should go help her out. She looks like she's having a bad day. So they get up and they're like, oh my God, Nicole, we haven't seen you in such a long time. They've never met. It's a ploy. They get Nicole out of this situation, able to leave the Dodgers, and they're in the car driving Nicole to a bar where her friends are at. The sister's like, so he didn't even know how to spell your name, and you guys have only been dating for 4 months, and he proposed? It's this crazy situation. Everyone is hating on her on the internet, but in reality, she's like, this doesn't even make sense. Carlos and Nick kind of hit it off. All Nick's friends are like, he's cute. You need a rebound, girl. Go after him. Nick finds her email. She's a journalist. She's resourceful. She finds his email. She emails him at work. He's also a doctor like Drew. That's why they're friends. So they get into the same situation. We're just hooking up. We can't date. We live in separate cities, blah, blah, blah. Actually, they might not live in separate cities. I don't know. There's something why Carlos does not want to date someone because of his family issues, and so they're like, we can't date. 4 stars. This was probably my second favorite couple. I really like Carlos and how they brought a lot of the culture in his family, the family dynamic. I love that. It was just fun. It was a good time. Next, the third book in the series, The Wedding Party. I gave this one 4 stars. This was between Maddie and Theo. Maddie is Alexa's best friend, and Theo is one of Alexa's best friends. Alexa and Drew from the first book, Alexa's best friend's third book. We're following? Okay, perfect. Basically, Maddie is a personal stylist. Theo works with Alexa at the mayor's office or something and Maddie and Theo, they hate each other. But they're both bridesmaids or bridesman to Alexa in this wedding. So they have to interact because they're part of Alexa's wedding. At a party or something, I think it was during Alexa and Drew's relationship, Alexa goes home with Drew, and then Theo and Maddie are left alone. Maddie and Theo end up hooking up, and they're like, oh my God, we don't even like each other. Why did this happen? They're like, we cannot tell Alexa this is never gonna happen again. We hate each other. Why did we even do this? Then the next time they see each other, they hook up. It keeps happening. Every time they see each other, they end up hooking up. And they're like, so maybe we do like each other, but we still can't tell Alexa. So they keep hooking up kind of behind her back. But same situation, we can't be together, and then they're together. Boom, 4 stars. I liked Maddie. She was fun. I liked Theo. I didn't picture him the same as the book described him, because I didn't describe him until a little bit later. And I thought, I don't know, I just did not picture him the same as in the book. Number 12, The Royal Holiday. I rated it a 3 stars. Now that I'm looking back at it, it was probably a 2. Least favorite in the series. Let me tell you why. This one was about Maddie's mother. I found it a little weird for me as a 17-year-old to be reading about 40-year-olds having sex. Basically, Maddie's mother, Vivian. Maddie is a personal stylist. She gets hired to personal style, I guess, for the Duchess of England. She's like, I am only doing this job if my mom comes along because she needs a break because she works hard. And so they go to England together for Christmas. They're at England. She meets this other guy who's basically like an assistant to the Queen. I think he was like press secretary or something like that to the Queen. His name is Malcolm. They hit it off. They have a great time over their vacation. And then it's time for Vivian to leave. So Vivian's like, what would happen if I stayed in England for a little bit more of holiday break? Like, we're going home early. What if I don't go home early? What if I just stay here? Malcolm's like, yeah, that's a great idea. You should totally do that. They end up hooking up. Same situation. Maddie's mom has to go back. Oh, crap. They live in different cities. We can't date. Then they get together. Last book of the Shatter Me series is next. Book number 13. Book number 6 in the series. Book number 13 I read this month. Imagine Me by Tara Mafi. 5 stars. There is a bunch of, I guess, novellas that like are in between the Shatter Me series. Am I gonna read them? Probably not. That's too much. I liked what ended. I'm satisfied. We're done. Book number 14, the last book I read this month. It was The Witch Haven. Did not write down the author. It will be right here. I rated this book 4 stars. Was it really a 4 stars? I don't know. Could have been like a 3.5, 3.75. We're just going with it. This girl named Frances Hallowell works in a garment establishment, like a tailor, kind of. Mass production, but it's not a factory. It's set in the Industrial Revolution, right? So Frances, one night, oh my god, my southern accent just came out. One night, trigger warning for sexual assault, her boss attacks her with the intention of sexually assaulting her. But before he can do that, her boss is dead. Scissors stuck him in the head. She freaks out. She knows how this looked. She's gonna get blamed for his murder. Did she commit murder? She doesn't know. So she basically stages this murder to look like she didn't do it. The next morning, the police are already there and they're like, whose scissors were these? They were Frances's. So she's prime suspect in the investigation. Then they are like ready to interview her. She's getting interviewed. And then these two girls walk in and they're like, where is Frances Hallowell? And she's like, right here, what? And they're like, so actually you have tuberculosis. And the officers are like, what? We need to run an investigation. But then they're like, but tuberculosis. And so that wins, and she goes off to the sanitarium with these ladies. She figures out it's not actually a sanitarium. It's a school for witches. She's a witch. She starts learning magic there, and it's all magic that's like cooking and sewing and cleaning like a lady, like a woman. The woman's place is in the home. And she's like, I'm not feeling this. There have been these notes left on her pillow from her brother's murder, or somebody who knows something about her brother's murder. And she's like, yo, this is scary. Like, what's going on? She's got the notes from her brother's murder. And she's like, I hate learning this stupid magic that doesn't teach us anything. And so she decides to go and meet with her brother's murderer. She meets this dude. His name is Finn, I think. He is like, I'll teach you about magic. And I was one of your brother's friends and we work for this gentleman's club and blah, blah, blah. And so they start getting lessons from Finn in like real magic. She's questioning the corruption of this girls' magic school, and there's a boys' magic school, and it's also corrupt. So like this whole corrupt system of magic. I'm pretty sure there's a second book. Ends in a cliffhanger. That's what I'm going to say. The atmosphere, it was great. Very magical, very witchy vibes, as you would imagine it being called Witch Haven. I did not see the plot twist coming like at all, which was great. So that is all for today. Thank you for watching my April wrap up, if I even end up posting this. Yeah, I wish I could take a cool thumbnail with all the books piled in my hand, but it would look like this. Peace.